Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the latest episode of Fear the Walking Dead. As always is the norm with my videos, I won't be holding back on any spoilers, so please do keep that in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. So another week and yet another very average episode of Fear the Walking Dead. The only saving grace from this week's episode is that one of my favourite The Walking Dead characters, Dwighty Boy, finally made his long-awaited debut, but even poor old Dwight ends up being somewhat dumbed down after making the jump over to Fear. After June and John make a stop off in some kind of cheap Westworld rip-off in order to scavenge weapons, Dwighty Boy appears hot on their heels. It's revealed that Dwight has been following Sherry's notes around the country for the best part of the year, and it is a bit of a coincidence that he somehow ended up in the same location as Morgan, but hey, I guess you got to make an excuse for these characters to cross over, so that's the excuse the writers have come up with. I have to admit I was somewhat surprised to find out that it was Dwight who was shooting John, because to be honest I didn't really expect Dwight to turn up this early in the season, and seeing him on the show somewhat rekindled my enthusiasm for it for about 5 seconds before it got rubbish again. I know I've complained many times about the characters on this show sparing people who are shooting at them or trying to kill them, but this is one instance in which I'm actually glad that John and June decided to be pacifists instead of, shooting Dwight in the back. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to complain about this attitude still, because I will be complaining about it later on. Although I have to admit that it would be kind of funny if Dwight turned up only to be killed 5 seconds later. I mean, can you imagine how that would go down? Anyway, I said a moment ago that Dwight seems to have become a bit dumber since going over to Fear, and here are 2 examples of why I feel that way. So firstly, there's a scene of him, June and John escaping a building on the 1st floor, and they go out and stand on the rickety roof. Rickety or rickety, you know what I mean, it's not stable. So basically they're on this roof, and Dwight decides that the best course of action here is to throw himself on the floor, forgetting that he's been shot in the arm by John, which means he ends up flailing around on the floor like a fish who can't do anything and nearly gets killed. Another dumb Dwighty moment occurs when June and John help him up off the floor, and instead of sticking with them, he turns around and makes a sprint for their car and is instantly surrounded by walkers. Now I get that Dwight is a bit cautious considering, he was part of the Saviours and he knows what kind of arseholes they are, but these people had just patched him up and they had then risked their lives to pick him up, to help him, so why didn't he just say to them, hey, there's something important in that car, do you mind giving me a hand to the car? Instead of running around and nearly getting himself killed. With Dwight surrounded by the undead, June then spends the next 5 minutes working as a suicide hotline operator, trying to convince him not to kill himself. As you'd expect, the dialogue that occurs is messy and full of cliches, but I guess if you're trying to convince someone to stay alive, it doesn't have to be the best written dialogue in the world as long as it works. But the problem I have with this scene is that we all know Dwight isn't going to kill himself in the first episode of his time on Fear the Walking Dead. So there's no real tension to it, and yeah, it just feels like a bit of a waste of time really. I mean, I do like the fact that it does show us Dwight's mindset though, mind you, because it does show that he's basically just as miserable as he was when he was at the Saviours, which for me as a Dwight fan is actually quite sad. So I like that about it, but otherwise, yeah, it was a bit forced and unnecessary. Hopefully then things turn around for Dwighty Boy, but I'm not putting my bets on Sherry still being alive. And speaking of Sherry, for me she has to be one of the most forgettable characters on The Walking Dead. I mean, she's hardly on the show in the first place, and then it's kind of hard for me to feel sorry for a woman who chooses Negan over her husband just because she wants to have an easier life. I mean, I want Dwight to find Sherry for his happiness, but as far as her status goes, I couldn't give a shit if she's dead, to be quite honest. The final moment that involves Dwight, which I want to talk about, is perhaps one of the most stupidest moments I have ever seen on Fear the Walking Dead. So there's a scene of an injured Dwight on the floor, and he's got an undead walker stuck on top of him, and this undead walker is one that he just killed, but because of his arm, he's too weak to move the walker off. And whilst this is happening, 2 walkers come either side of him, well, they're moving closer to him either side of him, and we've got John and June who are down to sort of the other side of this make-believe western town. Now it's revealed that John only has 1 bullet in his gun, so he then asks Dwight to raise his axe up in the air, and at this point I'm thinking to myself, is he really going to do this? Is he going to try and shoot the bullet and slice it against the axe? Surely, no, they're not going to do that. That's ridiculous. Surely not, and then he does it. So John fires the bullet, it hits Dwight's axe, splits in half perfectly, fires off in both directions and kills both walkers. Yeah, that really does happen. I guess depending on your viewpoint, you might think that this is one of the coolest moments on the show. Oh my god, is he really going to do that? Is John going to fire the bullet at the axe, thus separating the bullet into two perfect pieces, then killing the walkers after? Oh my god, what genius writing! I can't wait. Oh my god, come on John, you can do it John. Oh my god, the tension is killing me. Do it. Do it. Oh, yes. Oh, John. Oh, bravo, John. That was the best moment of TV I've seen in my life. Incredible. Amazing. Genius. Oh, genius, genius, genius. Wait a minute. Didn't I work on this show? I knew that was gonna happen. But it doesn't matter. That just makes it even more amazing. If you're like me, you might think that this was the moment when Fear the Walking Dead truly jumped over the zombified shark. I don't know if any of you who are watching this video have ever played Metal Gear Solid, but in the first game there's a dude called Grey Fox who is like a reanimated guy who is in a cyborg ninja suit, and he has a sword and, well, like a katana, a sword, and he comes up against these soldiers from the group called Foxhound, and they're all firing bullets at him, and he starts chopping the bullets up. And no one can land a bullet on him, and he starts chopping them up and he kills everyone. Now, that's dumb, but the reason it works in Metal Gear Solid is because the game is so over the top and so full of these crazy villains, so it kind of fits in with that world. Fear the Walking Dead, however, started life out as a serious zombie show that showed us the fall of a civilization. I mean, in the first season we had riots on the street, we had characters dying, we had Alicia's, childhood sweetheart was bitten and then died. It was a serious show. As the series progresses, Travis loses his partner, Travis's son becomes a monster and is then killed by the people who he abandoned his father for. Travis then goes absolutely apeshit when he finds the guy who kills his son and beats him to death in what is one of the most brutal scenes on the show, and is one of Travis's best moments, and it's an incredible moment from the series in my opinion. The third season begins with Troy and his army buddies shooting people and killing them because they want to record how long it takes for people to turn into walkers, and he wants to see if different races turned quicker. And there's a lot of this racial tension within the series with the Walker and Jeremiah Otto are the two characters on opposing sides, and one person says that they should have the land and the other does, and there's a lot of serious themes. And there's also an episode in which Alicia is trapped in a bunker with all these other people, and the oxygen starts running out, and she has to then slowly kill people because she doesn't want everyone to die, and she has to come to a reasoning behind who she kills first. And there's a lot more that I could talk about from the first 3 seasons of the show, but my point is, how have we gone from a show which has these kind of themes and this kind of tone to it, to a show where a guy is shooting a bullet at an axe, splitting the bullet in half and killing 2 walkers whilst cheesy western music plays in the background? What the hell has happened? I guess you could say that I should just stop moaning and enjoy the show for what it is, but I don't think I've really watched anything else that has undergone such a huge shift tonally in such a short space of time. Also, in regards to the actual scene itself of John firing the bullet at the axe, the thing that doesn't make sense to me is that there are 2 walkers there. John has 1 bullet. I know he's not near Dwight, but it's not like he's a mile away from him. He could have just ran to Dwight, shot one of the walkers, and then took the other walker out with his gun, but instead, the show has to pull off what it thinks is this incredible moment of him firing at an axe, which makes no sense. I mean, if I was Dwight, I would have been majorly pissed off. I would have just said, why didn't you come over here and kill him? I mean, what if he held the axe slightly to the left or the right? It wouldn't have worked. Moving on from crazy cowboy antics now to Alicia, who got the most screen time of the other characters, although she didn't really do a lot with that screen time apart from just spout cringy dialogue at the kids who left in episode 1. There's one scene in particular where she's on the walkie and she's saying to the kids stuff like, oh, I know what it's like to have lost people. My mum died. I know what it's like to feel in pain and blah, blah, blah. And this typical Gimple dialogue. And then sort of the screen turns to Morgan and he's there smiling. And he's there smiling as if to say, that's it, Alicia. You've learned my shitty dialogue. Good girl. Well, no, that's not the point of it, but yeah, that's just what I thought. I just thought, oh look, there's Morgan smiling because Alicia now talks like an idiot like he does. Brilliant. Anyway, there's a big reveal at the end of the episode, and it turns out that these kids who left in episode 1 are actually the bad guys, and they're the ones who've been setting up all these walker traps, and yeah, wow. Undoubtedly it was surprising, but it was only surprising because it was so stupid. I mean, it's surprising, but you don't expect it to happen because who in their right mind would think, oh, these kids make for great villains? I think that in their heads the writers are expecting us to all go, brilliant, what a twist, brilliant, but in actual reality I just sat there and just went, oh, great, the kids are villains, brilliant. It's a Martha situation all over again. I mean, I thought we reached the apex of bad villains with her last year, but now I've got to sit through some kids who make roadblocks out of walker intestines, tying walkers together by their intestines for some reason. Why? I mean, where is the dude from the first episode? This guy actually had potential, and they just introduced him, and we probably won't even see him to the second half of the season now. Also, this just further adds to my argument that our protagonists are complete idiots. I mean, they've already lost their factory, they crashed their plane, and now because they've trusted these kids, they're gonna be in some kind of danger, I guess, for trusting the bad guys as well. Of course, I understand that TV shows need a way to create conflict, and sometimes this can involve the main characters making mistakes or doing things that they shouldn't, but Fear's cast are so incompetent that they just seem borderline retarded. It's near impossible for me to care about people who keep doing this much stupid stuff. I mean, think about it this way. If a friend of mine, for example, told me that, I don't know, every Friday he was going to go to a club and play Russian roulette and put a gun against his head, and he and this other group of 4 or 5 people were going to take it in turns, shooting themselves or attempting to shoot themselves and seeing if they survived the night. And now, if he went there and then injured himself or died, would I feel sorry for him? No. Because he would have been a bloody moron for doing it in the first place. And that's how I feel about these characters. I'm supposed to feel bad that, oh no, they're in a bad situation, they've met bad people, but it's all their fault. It's actually gotten to the point whereby I want them to be punished for their mistakes, because who acts like this in a post-apocalyptic world? Come on. Come on. This season has turned out to be every much as a disaster as season 4 was, to be honest, and yeah, it's just been bad. Like, the premiere was alright, the premiere was good. I mean, maybe, I know I liked it more than most people, but it was interesting, it was entertaining at least, and last 2 episodes the characters have just been doing dumb shit again, and I think that's the problem with Fear the Walking Dead, is that the first episode was a lot of action, so it sort of ignores, it doesn't give much of a chance for the characters to speak, because when they do speak, they all just say stupid stuff, and they keep doing stupid things, and who is there to care about anymore? I mean, really, who is there to care about anymore? I don't, I just hope Dwight, I mean, Dwight was okay, to be fair. I know I made a few comments about him being stupid, but his dialogue was still okay, and he still seems like a cool guy. So hopefully Dwight can save it. We'll see. And I've got to watch it anyway. I've agreed to review it, but come on, please improve for me, please. There you go. Let me know below what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? Did it make you feel as depressed as it did me? Or did you think it was alright? Whatever your thoughts, let me know below. And before I go, I want to apologise to the small amount of people who have been watching my Nosferatu reviews, because I made a status and said I'm not going to do them because, to be quite frankly, that doesn't make any sense. To be frank, reviewing 2 TV shows a week for me is too much work. Which that's why I normally just do 1 and then do like a feature video. Trying to get 2 out and get 2 sort of done early in a week is too much for me with a job and kids and a wife. Well, kid, I don't have, bloody hell, I hope I don't have more than 1 kid. A kid and a wife is just too much. So sorry about that, but I will do a review of the entire season at some point and try not to sort of go over too much what I've already said. But anyway, that's about it. Thanks everyone. Have a good week. I forgot what day it was. Have a good week. See you later. Bye.